I stared at the guest list spread across my apartment table and smiled. Claire's going to love this, I whispered. My phone buzzed. Claire asterisk asterisk, don't forget dinner at your parents' house tonight. Mom says everyone will be there, asterisk. I replied, asterisk wouldn't miss it. Love you, asterisk. She answered with a heart. For 6 months, every morning it started with wedding plans. Every night ended with dreams about our future. I believed I had finally reached the happiest chapter of my life. I picked up the small velvet box holding her engagement ring and smiled. Just one more month, I told myself. When I arrived at my parents' house, my mother opened the door. Ethan, you're late. I'm only 5 minutes late. 5 minutes is still late. I laughed softly. Sorry, Mom. She stepped aside without smiling. Inside, Daniel sat comfortably on the couch. There he is, he said. Hey, you look excited. I am. He smirked. I can tell. Claire arrived moments later. She walked over and hugged me, but something felt different. You okay? I asked. I'm fine. You seem tired. Wedding planning. I nodded. I know. It'll be worth it. She forced a smile. Dinner began quietly. My father barely looked at me. Mom kept asking Daniel about his promotion. So, she said proudly, our successful son finally got the corner office. Daniel grinned. It took hard work. I chuckled. I'm proud of you. Thanks. Nobody asked about my architectural project. Nobody mentioned the community center I had finished last week. I ignored it. Tonight wasn't about me. It was about family. Or so I thought. Claire kept avoiding my eyes. I leaned closer. Did something happen? No. You've barely spoken. I'm listening. Daniel suddenly raised his glass. I have something important to say. Mom clapped immediately. Oh, finally. I frowned. What do you mean? Daniel looked directly at me. I didn't plan for things to happen this way. A strange feeling settled in my stomach. What are you talking about? He inhaled slowly. Ethan. Claire lowered her head. I've fallen in love. I smiled awkwardly. Congratulations? Wait, with who? Silence. Daniel reached across the table. He took Claire's hand. My heart stopped. I stared at their fingers. Then at Claire. Then back at Daniel. What is this? Nobody answered. I laughed nervously. Okay, seriously. Claire whispered. I'm sorry. I blinked. Sorry for what? Daniel squeezed her hand. We didn't mean to hurt you. I pushed my chair back. Hurt me how? My mother's voice broke the silence. Ethan, sit down. No. Please. No. Tell me what's happening. Daniel met my eyes. Claire and I love each other. Everything inside me froze. I looked at Claire. Tell me he's joking. She couldn't look at me. I can't. Claire. Tears filled her eyes. I'm sorry. The room became painfully quiet. I heard my own heartbeat louder than anyone's voice. I waited for someone to laugh. Someone to admit this was a terrible joke. Nobody did. I closed the door to my tiny apartment and leaned against it until my legs stopped shaking. The room was barely big enough for a bed, a table, and 2 chairs, but it was the first place that belonged only to me. My phone buzzed again. Daniel had posted another picture. He stood beside Claire, both of them smiling beneath the caption. Sometimes love finds the right path. Thousands of people liked it. A second post appeared minutes later. Claire held up my old engagement ring, now resting on a different finger. New beginnings. I threw my phone onto the couch. Why? I whispered. A knock came at the door. I opened it and froze. Noah. He smiled. You look terrible. Thanks. I meant exhausted. You still call me terrible. He laughed. I brought dinner. You always did know how to make an entrance. He walked inside, looked around, and nodded. So this is home. For now. He placed 2 paper bags on the table. I wasn't going to let you eat instant noodles forever. I've only been here 3 days. Exactly. We sat across from each other. He handed me a drink. So, tell me everything. There isn't much. Ethan. They chose each other. I know. They chose each other in front of me. I know. My own parents agreed. He stayed quiet. After a long moment, he asked, Are you angry? I don't know. You do know. I wake up angry. He nodded. I go to sleep angry. That's honest. But I still miss them. That's honest too. I rub my face. I keep wondering what I did wrong. No. What? Don't ask that. Why not? Because you didn't lose them by failing. They lost you by betraying you. His words stayed with me. He leaned forward. Do you remember what your grandfather always said? I smiled faintly. Character lasts longer than applause. Exactly. He believed that. So should you. I looked toward the window. There are things they don't remember. What things? I hesitated. Nothing. Ethan, it doesn't matter. If it didn't matter, you wouldn't hide it. I changed the subject. How's work? He sighed dramatically. Nice try. I laughed for the first time in days. There it is. What? That laugh. I thought I'd forgotten it. You didn't. Silence settled between us. Finally, I opened a small metal box from my backpack. Inside rested several old documents. Noah frowned. What are those? Something my grandfather gave me years ago. You've kept them all this time? I promised him I would. He reached toward them. Can I see? I closed the lid gently. Not yet. He studied my face. Whatever those papers are, they matter, don't they? I nodded slowly. They matter more than anyone in my family realizes. 3 days after Noah visited, someone knocked on my apartment door. I opened it carefully. A woman in a navy blazer smiled politely. Are you Ethan Carter? I am. I'm Olivia Brooks. I frowned. I'm sorry. Do I know you? I'm the wedding planner for Daniel Carter and Claire Dawson. My chest tightened. If you're here to invite me, don't waste your time. I'm not. She lifted a thick folder. I think I made a mistake, and I need your help. I stepped aside. Come in. She looked around my tiny apartment before sitting across from me. I apologized for showing up without calling. That's fine. What happened? I was reviewing ownership documents for the Carter estate. I stayed silent. The venue requires legal confirmation before the ceremony. So, I found your name. My name. Yes. She opened the folder and slid several copies across the table. I thought it was a typing error. I picked up the papers. They looked exactly like the originals locked inside my metal box. She continued. The registry lists 2 legal owners. I know. She blinked. You know, I've known for years. Then why hasn't anyone mentioned it? Because nobody remembers. How was that possible? My grandfather changed his will shortly before he died. She leaned closer. And he transferred half the estate to me. Her eyes widened. Half? Yes. I checked the records 3 times because I couldn't believe them. You weren't wrong. She looked genuinely confused. If that's true, the wedding can't legally happen without your written approval. I said nothing. She whispered, Does Daniel know? No. Claire. No. Your parents? I don't think so. She leaned back slowly. This changes everything. It might. No, Ethan. It definitely does. I opened my old metal box and placed the original documents beside her copies. She compared every page. The signatures match. They should. The registration numbers match. They do. She looked at me again. You've been carrying this secret alone? My grandfather asked me to. Why? He said there would come a day when I need proof that I mattered. Silence filled the room. Finally, she asked, What are you going to do? I looked out the window. I don't know. You could stop the wedding. I could. Do you want revenge? The question stayed in the air. I want peace. Those aren't always the same thing. No. A second knock interrupted us. I opened the door. Noah walked inside, carrying coffee. I guessed you'd forget breakfast. Then he noticed Olivia. Oh. I smiled faintly. Noah, this is Olivia. The wedding planner? She nodded. He looked at the documents. Did she find out? She did. He set the coffee down. So, it's finally happening. Olivia looked between us. I'm missing something. Noah folded his arms. His family spent years treating him like he had nothing. He pointed at the papers. They're about to learn how wrong they were. I lowered my eyes. I never wanted it to happen like this. Noah answered quietly. Standing up for yourself isn't cruelty, Ethan. His words echoed in my mind long after the room fell silent. Wedding week arrived faster than I expected. I stood beside my apartment window, holding my coffee while my phone vibrated nonstop. Noah walked in carrying breakfast. You haven't answered a single call. I don't plan to. He glanced at the screen. Your mother has called 12 times. I counted. And Daniel. 8. What about Claire? I sighed. More than 20. He placed the food on the table. They finally know. They finally remember. Olivia entered moments later carrying another folder. The lawyer is ready. I nodded. Has everything been reviewed? She smiled. 3 times. No mistakes. None. I took a slow breath. Then send it. She looked at me carefully. Are you certain? No. Then why? Because staying silent taught them they could keep hurting me. Noah nodded. Exactly. Olivia picked up her phone. I'll tell Mr. Hayes to proceed. She stepped outside. Minutes later, my phone rang again. Mom. I declined it. Another call. Daniel. Declined. Another. Claire. I stared at her name. Noah asked quietly, will you answer? No. Good. The phone stopped. Then a message arrived. Claire asterisk asterisk please answer. We need to talk. Asterisk. I locked the screen. I spent months begging for conversations. Noah crossed his arms. They chose silence. Now, they can have it. An hour later, Olivia returned. It's done. Already. The legal notice was delivered directly to the estate manager. What happened? She smiled faintly. Confusion. Only confusion? For the first 5 minutes. And after that, panic. I almost laughed. She continued. Your father kept saying there had to be a mistake. My mother, she insisted your signature wasn't necessary. And Daniel, he demanded to know who challenged the wedding. I suppose someone answered. The lawyer handed him your ownership documents. Silence filled the apartment. Noah finally asked. His reaction? Olivia couldn't hide her expression. He went completely pale. My phone rang again. Claire. I ignored it. Again. Ignored. Again. Ignored. Voicemail after voicemail appeared. Olivia looked at me. She sounded desperate. I was desperate once. What are you feeling? I thought carefully before answering. Less anger than yesterday. What then? Relief. Another message appeared. Claire asterisk asterisk please, Ethan. This isn't how I wanted things to happen. Asterisk. I whispered. Neither did I. The television in the corner suddenly switched to a live report. A reporter stood outside the estate gates. Questions continue after unexpected legal complications threatened Saturday's wedding. Guests gathered outside. Workers rushed between buildings. Vehicles arrived one after another. Noah lowered the volume. Looks like the story is spreading. A quiet knock interrupted us. I opened the door. A young woman stood there, twisting her hands nervously. Ethan, Mia, she smiled weakly. I wasn't sure you'd let me in. I haven't seen you in years. I know. She stepped inside slowly. I'm sorry for coming without asking. It's okay. She looked down. I owe you an apology. For what? For saying nothing. I frowned. What do you mean? All those family dinners. She swallowed hard. I saw how they treated you. I stayed silent. I should have defended you. You were only a teenager. I was still old enough to know it was wrong. Her voice trembled. I'm sorry I stayed quiet. For the first time since leaving that house, I felt something stronger than revenge. I felt respected. Wedding day arrived beneath a bright morning sky, but I felt no excitement. I adjusted my jacket, locked my apartment door, and looked at Noah. You don't have to come, I said. He smiled. I'm not letting you face this alone. Olivia joined us beside her car. The guests started arriving an hour ago. How many? Almost everyone. I nodded slowly. And the legal officers? They're waiting for the right moment. My phone buzzed again. Mom. I declined it. Daniel. Declined. Claire. Declined. Noah slipped my phone into my pocket. You've already said everything by saying nothing. We drove toward the estate without speaking. When we arrived nearby, I stayed inside the car. From a distance, I watched expensive cars fill the parking area. Guests laughed. Music floated through the air. For a brief moment, I remembered believing I would be the groom, standing there. Olivia checked her watch. It's time. Across the lawn, I saw Daniel greeting guests with a confident smile. My parents stood beside him, pretending everything was perfect. Victor Dawson welcomed business partners with a proud handshake. Nobody noticed the 2 legal officers walking through the entrance. One of them carried a sealed envelope. I watched him approach the venue manager. The conversation lasted less than a minute. Then everything changed. Workers stopped decorating. Musicians lowered their instruments. Guests exchanged confused looks. Another officer stepped onto the stage. His voice carried across the garden. Attention, everyone. The music stopped completely. This ceremony cannot legally proceed. Whispers spread instantly. Daniel rushed forward. What are you talking about? The ownership authorization required for this property has not been granted. What authorization? The officer opened the document. Written approval from Mr. Ethan Carter. Silence. Complete silence. Daniel grabbed the papers. That's impossible. It has already been verified. My brother has nothing to do with this estate. The officer answered calmly. According to the official registry, he does. Victor stormed toward my father. Robert, explain this. Dad looked stunned. I didn't know. You expect me to believe that? Mom tried to intervene. There must be some mistake. There isn't, the officer replied. Claire stepped out of the bridal suite wearing her wedding dress. What's happening? Daniel turned toward her. Ethan. She frowned. What about Ethan? He stopped the wedding. Her bouquet slipped from her hands. No. Victor's face turned red with anger. You told me every legal matter was complete. Dad lowered his eyes. I thought it was. You thought. Guests lifted their phones. Cameras pointed everywhere. Reporters hurried through the entrance. Questions came from every direction. Is the wedding canceled? Who owns the estate? Where is Ethan Carter? Claire searched the crowd desperately. Call him. Mom answered quietly. He won't answer. Keep trying. I have been. Claire pulled out her phone with shaking hands. She called me again. My phone vibrated inside my pocket. I looked at the screen. Noah asked softly, will you answer now? I locked the phone again. No. A black sedan rolled through the front gate. Olivia smiled. She's here. Who? Judge Eleanor Price. The retired judge stepped out calmly, carrying official documents that would leave no room for arguments. Her arrival silenced even the loudest voices. The morning after the canceled wedding, I woke to my phone vibrating without stopping. Noah looked up from the kitchen. You should probably see this. I unlocked my phone. Every news app showed the same headline. Wedding stopped after hidden ownership documents surface. Another article appeared. Questions raised about Carter family estate. I sighed. It spread faster than I expected. Noah handed me a cup of coffee. The truth usually does. My phone rang again. Mom. I declined it. Another call. Dad. I declined that one too. Noah watched quietly. They're running out of excuses. A message arrived from Olivia. Judge Price verified every document. You're completely protected. Asterisk, asterisk. I smiled faintly. Thank you. Less than a minute later, she called. Good morning, Ethan. I've had better mornings. I understand. What's happening now? The reporters found more than the ownership records. What do you mean? They started investigating the Carter family's finances. I frowned. They discovered missing estate funds. Missing. Several large transfers were made over the past few years. Who authorized them? They're tracing everything. I leaned back. I never wanted this. I know, but they started digging because of the wedding. Yes. And now they won't stop. After ending the call, I turned on the television. A reporter stood outside my parents' house. We have obtained records suggesting financial irregularities connected to the Carter estate. Another reporter added, former employees claim Ethan Carter was repeatedly excluded from important family decisions despite legal ownership rights. I lowered the volume. They're finally hearing the whole story. Noah nodded. Truth has a way of catching up. That afternoon, Judge Eleanor Price invited me to her office. She greeted me warmly. Mr. Carter. Judge. She placed several folders across the table. I personally reviewed your grandfather's original documents. And they're genuine. I never doubted him. Neither do I. She adjusted her glasses. Your grandfather clearly intended to protect you. I swallowed hard. He always said someday, I'd need proof. He was wiser than most people realized. She slid another document toward me. These records also show repeated attempts to ignore your ownership rights. So they knew. Someone certainly did. Silence settled between us. She spoke again. You've been treated unfairly for many years. I kept forgiving them. I noticed. I thought forgiveness would fix everything. She shook her head gently. Forgiveness without accountability often encourages repeated harm. Her words stayed with me. When I left the courthouse, Claire stood beside my car. She looked exhausted. Ethan, I stopped walking. What do you want? I need to talk. I've heard enough lies. I didn't know. Didn't know what? She looked down. Daniel kept telling me everything would belong to us after the wedding. I stared at her. So that's what mattered? No. Really? I thought he loved me. And now? Tears rolled down her face. I don't know if he ever did. For the first time, I saw doubt replacing confidence. But I also knew regret could not erase betrayal. A week after the wedding collapsed, I finally returned to my office. For the first time in months, I felt calm instead of angry. No one knocked once before entering. You have a visitor. Ooh, he hesitated. Claire. I looked through the glass wall. She stood quietly in the reception area, holding a small envelope. Should I send her away? Noah asked. I thought for a moment. No. Claire walked inside slowly. Thank you for seeing me. I pointed toward the chair. Sit. She remained standing. I don't deserve to. That's your choice. She took a deep breath. I've practiced this conversation 100 times. You should say what's true instead. She nodded. I confused success with love. I stayed silent. I thought choosing Daniel meant choosing a better future. I looked at her calmly. And now, I understand how wrong I was. She placed the envelope on my desk. What's this? The engagement ring. I don't want it. It belongs to you. No. She lowered her eyes. I hurt you. Yes. I betrayed you. Yes. I don't expect forgiveness. I folded my hands. Then why are you here? Her voice trembled. I wanted to ask if we could start over. I looked at her for several seconds. Months earlier, those words would have broken me. Now they felt strangely empty. I can't. She wiped away tears. Because you hate me? No. Then why? Because I don't love the person you became. She closed her eyes. I deserve that. No. She looked confused. You deserve honesty. A knock interrupted us. Daniel pushed the door open without waiting. There you are. I sighed. You should have knocked. I'm not here for manners. Claire stepped away from him. What are you doing here? He ignored her. This whole disaster is your fault. I laughed quietly. My fault. You wanted revenge. I wanted respect. You embarrassed the family. You embarrassed yourself. He pointed at me. If you had signed those papers, none of this would have happened. I stood slowly. If you hadn't stolen my fiancée, none of this would have happened. His face turned red. Mom suddenly hurried into the office. Ethan, she was crying. I've been looking everywhere. I stayed quiet. She reached toward me. I only wanted this family to stay together. I stepped back gently. Families don't stay together by sacrificing one person. She froze. I never meant to hurt you. But you did. I thought Daniel needed more support. And I needed less. Nobody answered. I looked at each of them before speaking again. Respect cannot exist where one person is always expected to lose. Silence filled the room. For the first time, none of them argued. They finally understood that losing my trust had cost them far more than losing a wedding. 6 months passed faster than I expected. The old family estate no longer looked like a place filled with painful memories. Fresh paint covered the walls. Children's artwork decorated the entrance. Music drifted through open windows. I stood outside and smiled. Noah walked beside me. You did it. We did it. He laughed. I only carried boxes. You carried me when I needed it. He patted my shoulder. That's what friends do. Olivia joined us, holding a ribbon for the opening ceremony. The guests are ready. I looked around. Families gathered across the lawn. Young artists displayed paintings. Students practiced music inside the hall. Nobody wore expensive wedding clothes. Nobody argued about money. This place finally felt alive. Olivia smiled. Your grandfather would have loved this. I hope so. He definitely would. I looked toward the stone sign at the entrance. Instead of Carter Estate, it now read, Grandfather Samuel Community Arts Center. Noah grinned. Perfect name. He gave me hope when nobody else did. And now you're giving it to others. A little boy ran toward me, carrying a sketchbook. Mr. Carter. Yes. Look what I drew. He showed me a picture of the building, surrounded by smiling people. It's amazing. Really? Absolutely. His face lit up. I'm going to become an artist. I believe you. He hurried back to his friends. Olivia watched him leave. That's worth more than any wedding. I nodded. It is. My phone vibrated once. A news article appeared. Daniel had sold his expensive house after losing several business contracts. Another headline reported that Claire had moved away to start over somewhere else. I read both stories. Then I locked my phone. No one noticed. You don't even seem curious. I was. And now, I hope they learned from everything. No revenge. I shook my head. I already have everything I wanted. Olivia looked around the busy courtyard. What was that? Peace. The ribbon ceremony began. People applauded as I stepped forward. I looked at the crowd and spoke quietly. My grandfather believed every person deserves a place where dreams are welcomed. I smiled. I want this building to become that place. The crowd applauded again. After everyone entered, I stayed outside for one last moment. I remembered walking away with one suitcase while laughter echoed behind me. Back then they believed I had lost everything. They never understood what I carried inside me. I carried my dignity. I carried the truth. I carried the courage to walk away. I smiled toward the evening sky. The strongest person in the room is rarely the loudest. Sometimes he is simply the one willing to leave, rebuild, and never look back. At last, I understood something my grandfather had always known. Karma never needed my anger. It only needed the truth.